Hello everyone, my name is Martha. I lead a monotonous life as a housewife. My husband suddenly demanded a divorce. I never imagined it would come to this. If that's how it is, I'll take this to the very end. I will finally stand up against all the humiliation I've endured. I used to work for a major company, but I quit my job when I married Charlie 2 years ago. We pooled our money and bought an existing house. When we told our parents, they contributed a large sum, allowing us to buy a relatively new, comfortable house outright. Quitting my job to become a housewife was Charlie's request. "I want you to quit your job. I want you to stay home," he said suddenly one day as we were setting our wedding date. I didn't dislike my job and thought I'd continue working after marriage. I couldn't tell Charlie, but I actually earned more than him. While we could live on his income alone, we would be able to live a more comfortable lifestyle if we both worked. Not wanting to upset him by mentioning salaries, I responded non-committally, "But wouldn't it be better if we both worked until we have kids?" "Kids? It'll be fine. There are various financial supports from the government when you get pregnant, right?" "True. But wouldn't we have more sense of security if I also worked?" I said, "It's fine, we have savings, and I want you to focus on housework." My mom was a housewife, and my dad always said he could work hard thanks to her. Charlie was stubborn and wouldn't back down. I'd never thought much about it before, but this was the first time I felt troubled. I knew his mom was a housewife, but that didn't mean I had to be one too. Plus, with just Charlie's income, there would be less savings. To go this far, he seemed to be taking a strong stance on this. So, after several discussions, I agreed to quit my job and become a housewife. In addition to living expenses, Charlie promised me a monthly allowance of $300. He assured me he'd save as much as possible. The first year went by without issues. The budget wasn't ample but manageable with careful planning. About a year and a half into our marriage, Charlie suddenly said, "Martha, I need to cut your allowance to $200 starting next month." "What? Why?" Just as I said, things are getting tight. Why, we were managing fine before the company's not doing well and my salary got cut. "Your salary, economic downturns happen in every company. But could a salary drop so suddenly? Even when I was working at my company, it also had downturns. However, salaries never got reduced and the basic pay remained consistent. Something seemed off. Sensing this, I decided to keep an eye on my husband starting the next day. Soon, I noticed several puzzling behaviors. First, he clearly started working late more often. Since we got married, he usually came home early. Even if he had overtime work, he would be back by 7 p.m. But lately, he was staying late at the office almost every day, sometimes even past midnight. It didn't make sense that he suddenly had so much overtime work while the company's performance was supposedly declining. Second, he spent much more time on his smartphone. Normally, he preferred watching TV, and we often watched shows together after dinner and before bed. But recently, even with the TV on, his eyes were glued to his phone. He seemed to be messaging someone a lot. One time, I caught a glimpse of a messaging app on his screen. "Who are you texting?" I asked casually. He quickly hid the screen and replied, "Just a friend." But his reaction suggested otherwise. Third, his credit card statements showed unusually high spendings. We managed our household expenses and utilities with the money he gave me. Since our house was paid for, we had no mortgage, so any charges on his credit card were personal expenses. One day, while cleaning his room, I found a discarded credit card statement in the trash. The total was over $6,000. What on earth? Why is it so high? I saw charges for restaurants, movie tickets, and an aquarium. The biggest expense was a luxury brand item. Moreover, it was from a well-known brand that every woman would recognize. He had spent around $5,000 on that purchase. By then, it was clear my husband was having an affair. I had two options: confront him immediately or gather evidence first. If he was indeed cheating, divorce was inevitable. If I'm getting divorced, I should make sure I get proper compensation, I thought. So I decided to take my time and collect evidence of his infidelity. I visited a lawyer to ask for advice. I want to get a proper divorce settlement. How do I gather evidence? The lawyer explained what to do. Any proof of the affair is useful. Photos or videos of the act would be ideal, but that's difficult, right? Yes, I don't even know who the other person is. Many people hire private investigators. Also, it's crucial to save up some money. Money? The lawyer nodded and said, in cases of divorce due to infidelity, things rarely proceed smoothly. If the other party resists, it may go to divorce mediation, and alimony requests are often reduced. So everything requires money, is that what you're saying? Exactly. Hiring a lawyer like me costs money, and if you need to hire a detective agency, that will also incur expenses. I see. But won't it seem odd if I suddenly say I want to go back to work? Yes, that's right. Nowadays, there are many jobs you can do working from home on a computer. If you say that it's for your own spending money, it won't seem suspicious. That makes sense. I'll think about it, I replied. So, I decided to start saving money for the divorce. When I told my husband I wanted to work from home, he nonchalantly replied, "Do what you want." He was probably so engrossed in his affair that he didn't care about me anymore. My anger towards him grew daily. At the same time, I hired a detective agency to investigate his affair. Meanwhile, I searched his room for evidence whenever he wasn't around. 6 months passed, and I finally had enough evidence to confront him about the divorce. Over these months, he had truly changed. "If you keep making such awful food, I'm reducing next month's allowance even more." "Hey, there's a wrinkle in my shirt. You're useless. How can you be so incompetent when I'm the one supporting you?" He openly insulted me and treated me like a maid. His affection for his mistress had clearly eclipsed any love he once had for me. After sending him off to work, I went to my lawyer's office. I presented the evidence I had gathered and began the process to file for alimony. "You did well. It's almost over." These words from the lawyer made me tear up, but my heart was so exhausted. I wanted to divorce and get away from this life as soon as possible. After a quiet lunch outside, I returned home. It was still only 3 p.m. I thought I could relax a bit more before my husband returned, but when I opened the front door, I saw shoes that I was used to seeing. What? Why are Charlie's shoes here? Nervously, I opened the living room door and saw my husband lounging on the sofa with a beer in hand. "Charlie, why are you home so early?" I asked. He replied cheerfully, "I quit my job." "What? What are you talking about?" "I'm going to live a wonderful life now." "Ha! What is this nonsense? Why did you suddenly quit?" I raised my voice and he glared at me, slowly approaching with his beer in hand. "Do you even know your place?" He looked at me mockingly. He was clearly drunk, his face red and reeking of alcohol. Dealing with his affair was already infuriating, and now he had quit his job without warning. This was beyond selfish. I held back my discomfort and responded quietly, "My place." "What do you mean?" "Of course, you don't get it. You're just a parasite living off me, so I can get rid of you whenever I want." "What are you talking about? I don't need a useless housewife. You can take this shabby house. I want a divorce now. This shabby house is the one our parents helped us buy. How could you?" "Shut up. I don't need you anymore. I have a new woman and money now. Something was off with his words. The new woman was obviously his affair partner, but what did he mean by money? Struggling to contain my anger, I asked him, "What do you mean by money?" "I won the lottery." "The lottery?" "Yeah, $500 million. I checked at lunch today, and I won. So, I quit my job and came straight home." "That's so irresponsible." "It's none of your business. We're getting divorced anyway, and just so you know, I'll cash in the prize after the divorce, so you get nothing." He sneered at me, watching my reaction. My anger flared up even more. My husband suddenly demanded a divorce. I never thought it would come to this. If that's how it is, I'll fight back with everything I've got. I'll clear all the humiliation I've endured. Looking straight at him, I spoke, "Fine then, leave this house immediately." "I will. I'll even give you 200,000 in alimony. Then put it in writing and sign it." "Oh, and sign the divorce papers too." Yeah. I can't believe you're actually agreeing to the divorce so easily." "Of course I am. I knew you were cheating on me." "Oh, you knew. Well, it doesn't matter. We're still getting divorced anyway." Charlie 200,000 in alimony and signed the divorce papers, then packed his things and left for his mistress's place. The next day, I took the agreement to the lawyer. After explaining everything, the lawyer confirmed that as long as all necessary information was included, even a handwritten agreement was valid. This meant that Charlie was indeed obligated to pay me 200,000 in alimony. With that, I proceeded with the formalities through the lawyer. The divorce papers Charlie signed were accepted by the courthouse, and we no longer had anything to do with each other. 3 days later, things took a sudden turn. As I was doing housework, my phone rang. It was my ex-husband, Charlie. The legal documents shouldn't have reached him yet, so what could this be about? Curious, I answered, and he started talking in a flippant tone. "Hey, Martha, about that lottery." "What about it?" "Well, actually, I didn't win the $500 million. "What do you mean?" "When I checked online, it turns out I was looking at last year's winning numbers, so it wasn't this year's winning numbers." "Yeah, that's right. So about the 100,000 alimony, can we just forget about it?" The absurdity of his request made me sigh. This reaction seemed to irritate him, and he started raising his voice. "What's with that attitude? I agreed to the divorce easily, so it should be okay. Why are you acting so high and mighty? You're the one who cheated. You're at fault here. It's your fault for not being attractive enough anyway. I gave you the house and agreed to the divorce, so no alimony." "Got it?" "Yeah, sure, as if I'd ever agree to that." "What?" Ignoring his dumbfounded voice, I took a deep breath. This was my moment to release all the pent-up frustration. "Don't mess with me. Why should I do whatever you say? Do you have any idea what I went through? How I felt when I found out about your affair? Do you know how that feels?" "Calm down. I didn't mean to hurt you, but really, you cheated, and now you say that. I was an idiot to marry someone like you. I endured this awful marriage for 2 years, so you're paying the alimony. I have the agreement right here. I'll make you pay every cent of that $200,000. The call abruptly ended, and he didn't answer any of my calls afterward. He probably had no intention of responding to me ever again, but I wasn't going to let him off the hook. I intended to drag my ex-husband and his mistress straight to hell. I had the lawyer send legal notices to both Charlie and his mistress. Soon after, I received a call from them begging for a reduction in the amount, but I ignored it. The mistress, furious upon learning about the mistake with the lottery win, broke off their relationship. By the time the certified letter arrived, their relationship had already fallen apart, and Charlie was eventually kicked out of his mistress's house. With nowhere to go, Charlie sought help from his parents, but they disowned him. Banned from their home, he was left jobless, homeless, and penniless. Now, he's desperately searching for both a part-time job and a full-time job that provides housing. Most of his income will go toward paying alimony, so his carefree lifestyle is long gone. He deserves to suffer for what he's done. As for me, the house was too big to live in alone, so my parents decided to move in with me. Living with my parents again isn't so bad. I realize that marriage isn't the only path to happiness.